Been a long time now, hasn't it, people? This is Flimsy Slimsy at your service, and welcome back to My Man! Oh my God in heaven, people. Words cannot describe to you just how angry and disheartened I was after sitting through this film. I really wanted to like this movie, guys. I really, sincerely, genuinely did. But realizing how most of these sequels made 10 years after the original movie was made, I know how these things usually turn out. Hollywood has put me through this before with Anchorman 2, but honestly, this sequel was so bad, I would rather watch Anchorman 2 again than watch this thing again. And because they were able to get all of the original cast back from the first movie, as well as the exact same writing team behind the first movie, I honestly just thought maybe, just maybe, they would have been able to cobble together some sort of a miracle with this sequel, but no such luck. It turned out to be another shameless cash grab sequel for the sake of being another shameless cash grab sequel, and I'm talking about Zombieland Double Tap. Now, just a short little disclaimer here, guys. Unfortunately, there really isn't any good way for me to be able to talk about why this movie sucked without also spoiling major parts of it. So if you're one of those people who feels like they absolutely have to see it, regardless of hearing all the negative things there are about it, then turn off this video and go watch it for yourself and then come back to this video afterward, because otherwise you're about to get the whole thing ruined for you as we speak. Now, fans of the first film, you guys remember how it ended, right? It ended with these characters that we've grown to love to also start loving and respecting one another and trying to do right by each other as best as they can. And in general, just establishing this bond of trust amongst each other. Well, this sequel pretty much takes that bond of trust that they established from the first film and chucks it out the window within the first 10-15 minutes of the movie when Wichita decides to take Little Rock and leave them all again for the third time in a row. Look, I know it was done intentionally as a direct callback to how her character was in the first film, but there's a huge problem with this. 10 years have passed since then. In the context of a movie, when you revisit characters who have aged 10 years, it's illogical for them to be more or less the exact same people they were 10 years before now, and for them to have not grown and matured in the slightest. It just is. I just can't help finding it ridiculously offensive that Tallahassee and Columbus let Wichita and Little Rock get away with doing that for the third time in a row and still let them be a part of the little family crew that they've established there, because it's like it was more understandable when those two did it the first two times in the first movie, because they were all still getting to know each other and they all still had trust issues, but that shouldn't still be the case 10 years down the line. In my book, regardless of however long you've known a person, it's never okay to take somebody back and let them back into your life after they screw up from doing something like that for the third time in a row. Because it's like, you fool me once, shame on you. You fool me twice, shame on me. You fool me the third time, it's like compounds the shame to a whole new level that I can't even begin to describe. So yeah, if that absolutely had to be a part of the story, her doing that for the third time around, Columbus needed to tell Wichita to go right off and find her little sister all on her own. And as I mentioned before, it's been 10 years literally since the events of the first film. You guys understand that in a passage of time, especially as significant as that, characters, as well as people in general, are supposed to get smarter and wiser with age, right? Well, it seems if anything, these characters, talking about Tallahassee, Columbus, and Wichita mainly, have gotten dumber with age, dumber since the events of the first movie, literally worlds dumber. I say that especially for this one scene in particular, this one part of the movie where Tallahassee and Columbus both meet these two new characters who are literally, quite literally, doppelgangers of themselves. And, you know, time goes on and they start chumming around with these two guys and get to liking them. Then they realize that the doppelgangers have been infected by the zombie plague. They start literally transforming into zombies right before Columbus and Tallahassee's very eyes, but they're both like monologuing and trying to convince them it's not true, even though it's very, very obviously happening. And like literally the whole time that was going on, I was writhing in my theater seat, so angry, like, come on, you need to kill these motherfuckers. They're obviously infected. It just took way longer than it had any business taking Tallahassee and Columbus to kill those two guys. And there was also this problem with at least one or two other characters in the movie that it forces me to say it took the stupidity of these beloved main characters to a whole new level. And given the fact that the beloved main characters have been reduced to being kind of stupid, should it come as any surprise to you that the screenplay also has this problem? I mean, say what you will about this being a zombie movie, and because of that, not everything in this story is going to be completely and totally believable. I get that. But in the first movie, there was a certain standard of logic that was established for these characters and this world therein. And unfortunately, this sequel strays far, far away from that fucking standard. There's this brand new female character who comes in and who's played by Zoe Deutsch, who ends up being, you know, a short-lived new love interest for Columbus shortly after Wichita kind of loses her way morally in the story. And to be honest, I really like the actress portraying this character and everything, but the way the script handles this character, I found super objectionable when, you know, she starts having this nut allergy and puking her guts out and her face is like contorting. So obviously the rest of them, Columbus included, start to kind of like freak out a little bit, and they're just like, Columbus, she's turning into a zombie. You have to kill her. They find, obviously, she comes back later on in this story and they're all like, oh my God, we thought you were dead. And she was just like, oh, it was just my nut allergy acting up. And I'm just like, no. Movie, no human being on this planet pukes their fucking guts out and has their face warp that fucking much from a nut allergy. And towards the end of the movie, there's just this entire community of what are the most stereotypical hippies you've ever seen. You know, peace and love, absolutely no violence allowed over here. And I'm just like, come on, you cannot seriously expect me to believe that this many hippies were able to survive a zombie plague taking over the planet Earth for this long, surviving on absolutely no weapons whatsoever and being able to outrun that many zombies for that long. You have to provide more of an explanation than that. But does the movie do that? No, because the writers were not willing to put that much thought into it, were they? So yeah, even in the writing department, very unfortunately, this movie comes across as so simpleton that it's like 12-year-olds wrote it or something. And with all of this being the case, you would hope desperately that at least the standard of comedy writing set forth by the first film would still be intact in this sequel, right? Well, huge fucking spoiler for you. No, it's not. Now, this being a zombie movie, I knew going into it that it was going to be gross and disturbing and have a lot of zombie gore in it. But what I did not expect from it was this much vomit, projectile vomiting. There are like 3 scenes in which characters do this, and I had enough of it by the first time around. I was just like, come on, movie. It does not need to be this graphic. And while I don't necessarily have anything against vomit jokes, I can only appreciate a vomit joke when it's well done, when I don't see it coming. These vomit jokes I saw coming a clear country mile away. I will concede to you that the first Zombieland was also gross and gory in places, but what that movie did not feel the need to do was rely on vomit this very much to keep audiences entertained. I mean, there might have been a little vomit here or there in the movie, but this movie, it happens 3 times and it goes on for way longer than it has any business going on for. And it was just gross and nasty and not funny to me. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys, tell you guys I never laughed at all throughout the duration of this movie. There were some good laughs I had here and there, but let's just say I wasn't laughing as much as I was, anywhere near as much as I was hoping to be laughing. The laughs I had were a lot rarer than I was hoping they would be. The best way I can describe the rest of the humor in this movie that's not like gross out humor is this. If I can ask you guys a question. Do you ever remember in your day-to-day lives just meeting a specific person that was just trying so hard to amuse you and perhaps amuse others as well, that you could just feel the desperation emanating from this person to the point that they just came off as like ungodly, unbearably annoying? Well, unfortunately, that's how a lot of the rest of the humor in this movie felt like to me. It felt like they were either being so lazy with the jokes that I couldn't believe that somebody left them in the script and didn't do anything about changing them or removing them, or they were just trying so hard to be funny that it was just pathetic. And it was just such a sad sight to behold, given how much I love the original film. So yeah, guys, I feel at this time I've probably long since made my point. You all are tired of listening to me, but I am just like, wow, I am just in awe of how much this movie really sucked and really disappointed me because, like I said before, I have seen some disappointing sequels to movies I have either really liked or really loved, but this takes the cake. I couldn't believe how bad this movie was. Listen, people, if you guys love the first movie of this so much that you feel like there's absolutely no getting around it, you have to see how the continuation of these characters' story turns out. You absolutely have to see it. Then do yourself a favor, wait until it comes out on DVD and Redbox this because it is not worth going to the movie theater and blowing $11-12 to see it the way I did. Otherwise, take your $11 or $12 and get yourself a nice, juicy, meaty sub sandwich somewhere that you love, because that is honestly a much better way of spending $11 or $12 than going to the movie theater and sitting through this garbage. So with all of that being said, take care, everybody. This is Flimsy Slimsy of My Man, signing out.